So, some people may ask, what does the trust oil pack law have to do with the reforms of Solon? And I'm going to get into that here as brief as I can. This is like a semester long college course. Uh, the information that I'm going to present, within 6, 7 minutes or so, I could really expound upon for a whole semester in college. Okay. So during the time of Solon, time of Athens, about 400 years before Christ, Solon was the archon of Athens. And if anybody knows anything about the mafia started in Athens. Okay. So here's how it worked. In Athens, there were 10 major tribes. Each tribe had 20 to 30 clans. Each clan had 20 to 30 families. Okay. And from each tribe, then, the main organizational unit, was elected each year a general to represent each tribe. And as you may, if you've watched my other video, you'll know, the Jeff Bezos video, I explained it there. In ancient Athens, there was a council of 500, much akin to the Senate, the Congress, basically, about 496 people in Congress today. In ancient Athens, there was 500 people, and it was called the Council of the Areopagus. And from those 500 people were elected the 10 generals that represented the 10 tribes. And from the 10 generals that represented the 10 tribes, each year there was elected a supreme leader called an archon. And so the history books, the ones that remain from throughout time, because a lot of the history books were destroyed in Constantinople in, 1462, when the Turks burnt down the main library and destroyed all the existing texts of Aristotle and Socrates and Homer and all that stuff. Now, if you look at those history books, you'll see there's mention and talk of infighting between the tribes. There's mention and talk of assassinations, power struggles, and murders and deaths because of those power struggles to take control of Athens. How does that relate to modern times, you might ask? So I'm going to explain this to you, because if you didn't know, in 1974, a law was passed in Congress that changed our country forever. It was called the SunTrust Oil PAC Law. What's a PAC? A PAC is called, it's a political action committee, in case you don't know. A political action committee. So, much like ancient Athens, the United States, in its modern times, with its huge population, has pretty much emulated that teeny little population of ancient Athens to a very large degree. How, you might say? Well, if you look at the political action committees, okay, in the beginning there was something like 300 or 400 of them in 1974. Now there's over 3,000 political action committees, and I want to tell you how they work. Okay, these political action committees, basically, they gather money, they pull resources from the communities that they represent, the communities meaning in this modern world corporations. And corporations are like tribes, because a whole bunch of people work in corporations, but they come from different clans or families, but they all work together in the corporation, which would be like the modern day equivalent of a huge tribe. And these corporations pool their resources to pay politicians to represent their interests in Congress. They pay politicians to win elections. But here's the thing, the political action committees are not restricted as to how many politicians they can pay or help. So, for instance, let's say there's a political action committee that represents Coca-Cola, and Coca-Cola gives that the Coca-Cola Political Action Committee, and Coca-Cola gives a lot of money. It donates money to the Political Action Committee. It's a legal donation to a committee that then later uses that donated money to go make donations to political campaigns. But what happens is the Coca-Cola Political Action Committee doesn't just like give money to the Republican campaign, it also gives money to the Democratic campaign. So it doesn't even matter who wins. Coca-Cola's got that politician in its pocket. Okay. So modern day times, political action committees are being used like a mafia, because that's what was happening back in ancient Athens. Clans and tribes pooled together to form a mafia to control the price of fish, to control the price of wheat, control the price of basically anything. Okay. And in these modern times, political action committees are used to donate and funnel money to Congress so that they will represent the interests of these huge corporations that donate to both parties. And that's why I don't believe in either party, because I believe they're all bought off and corrupt. Every last one of them. Well, maybe not every last one of them, but let's just go 90%, 95%. Figure it out. But political action committees in this modern time are what are tearing our country apart and making our elections rigged and bought and paid for by corporations. And these corporations don't want to give up power. Their mafias are in control. Political action committees are like political mafias, and they go and pool their resources together to represent the interests of only their people at the expense of everybody else, right? That's what the mafia is. When you talk about what is a mafia is a group of people that sets the price and controls the price of any given product it wants, whether it's illegal cigarettes coming in from New Jersey to New York and Manhattan, or whether it's the price of marijuana going from Oregon to Texas, or whether it's the price of Coca-Cola across the world, or the price of a hamburger, or the price of a taco. So, pretty much in a nutshell, what we've got going on in the United States right now is mafia control of our government and our population, even though our population is being tricked and thinks it's not being controlled and there's no mafia. It's being hoodwinked. Donald Trump is part of a very bad mafia, in fact. And if you don't believe me, I know personally the people who are part of his mafia, because some of those people happen to be my family members, and I hate them. And I've hated them for more than 20 years now because they're racist assholes, and I'm not. I'm not a part of their mafia. I have nothing to do with those people. But it came to my attention that people like Greg Alavizos, maybe, and Leah Vukmir especially, contributed to the Donald Trump mafia and made Donald Trump president. Paul Ryan's from Wisconsin. Wisconsin is where my family's from. Wisconsin was one of the states where the election was rigged in favor of Donald Trump because my family helped that happen. That's what I believe. Now, Donald Trump is racist. Donald Trump is, for all intents and purposes, a pedophile. For all intents and purposes, he's a veritable sheriff of Nottingham. For all intents and purposes, he's a bigot. He's a treasonous, fraudulent liar. And this is exactly what the mafia will always do. Look at Paul Manafort. He's going to have his plea deal rescinded because he lied. This is exactly like this bipolar mafia stuff where you're part of a gang of like juveniles in high school. Oh, don't tell on me and I won't tell on you. Ooh, just keep lying. That's mafia. That's the mafia. And unfortunately, it's the Russian mafia that's backing Donald Trump too. That's why Donald Trump has been directed to screw our country over, to stall the government, to shut the government down, to not hire people for important positions like the ambassador of Mexico. So we have never been free of the mafia since the times of the reforms of Solon in Athens, 400 years before Christ, at least. So don't kid yourself, anybody. You think you can have a clean election? Ha! Call it a corporate shell game. Call it a hoodwinking, whatever you want to call it, but it is not fair. And the people are not being represented. Only corporate interests are being represented at this point. And much to my chagrin. See. Anyway, I think I clarified this point about the reforms of Solon, the mafia starting in Athens, Greece, 400 years before Christ, and existing through to modern times, and now in this new form called a political action committee. Yeah. You don't believe me? Go check it out. Just type in political action committee and ask Google how many or ask Alexa how many political action committees there are. After you ask her if she's working for the CIA. Really. Let's end this evil corruption that has taken hold of humanity and guided it down a wrong path. We don't have much time to wait. Our world is dying because of these stupid mafia liars like Donald Trump, who actually have no right nor reason to govern us or lead us, because they're just leading us down a false path of destruction. And they're lying to us every step of the way. What we need is true leaders. What we need is people who are going to guide us towards a healthier world, a more beautiful world, not one that's more fucked up. Think about this, people. Leopold Richard Bamberger Alavizo is reporting to you from Mexico City.